What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Fandoms Anonymous. We are here today to talk about something that is hitting the waves of the internet like a storm. But before we get started, I'm introducing my panelists that we're here with us today. The one and only Kevin Garlington from Hubster Photography. What's going on, Kev?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Glad to be back.
Let's do it. Next, my boy Clay from Tales of the Blade. What's going on, Clay?
As always, happy to be here, Malcolm.
And my boy Jeremy from the 2020 podcast. We date fresh. What's going on, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm just glad to be here too, brother. You already know what it is.
Let's do this. It's like an AA meeting. Everybody's just glad to be here. All right, let's get this thing trunked up, man. Let's get this thing trunked up. We are talking about Disney Plus. This is probably going to be the first streaming service that everybody has ever purchased on their own that they're not using from anybody else. I know that's the case in my book, but I think this is going to be the case in a lot of other people's households. This is something that's going to change the way how we view movies and TV and just content, period. I'm gonna start off with Kevin first, because Kevin is the OG of the clique. And Kevin, you've seen a lot more stuff than we've seen when it comes to the times of TV and movie and content. What are your thoughts on what Disney Plus is doing?
Well, I think it's been a long time coming, and I think Disney was smart to wait to kind of let this technology kind of go and get the kinks worked out. And then now we're at a point where you can stream, 4K, and the internet providers can give you the bandwidth you need if you pay for it, obviously. So I think Disney kind of waited and they let the kinks get worked out, and they came along here. And if you realize something, we've actually, not only did they wait for the technology, they waited for us to change how we consume content, because we've all changed it now. Now it's, you can find articles about bingeable shows on Netflix or whatever, or on whatever service. And you have some services that, like Hulu, I think at one point had a show that came out and they were trying to, release an episode every week or so, and people were complaining. So now when shows drop, pretty much you get the whole season at once. And then for people, probably like everybody on his phone, if it's something good, we watch it all in one weekend, So it's been a change, and we've changed how we consume content. So I think Disney was right to wait it out and probably put out something that's going to be superior to all other products.
And I think that's the key word, superior, because we've all wanted to have the ability to watch a lot of the stuff that they're going to put forth and have it all in one place. And we're getting to be able to have that now. Clay, what's your take on, like Kevin was saying, the wait process that they took in order to put this into fruition? What's your take on that?
Like he said, it was definitely a smart move to go ahead and wait for everything to kind of work itself out in terms of how operations would be considered in this particular string of things. I also think it's a really smart move that they're pulling all of their own content in terms of what deals they had worked out with other services like Netflix, and they're pulling everything together into one location to make it easier to access, not only for parents and their kids, but of course also for the more mature consumer to be able to take on some of the other things that they're working on. So that was actually a good move.
Most definitely. Now, Kevin, I got one more for you. What do you think are the pros and cons to Disney Plus, along with everything else that's out there? Because there's been a lot of talk of, this is not a good idea, they shouldn't do this, they got all the stuff now. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think for the pros, for us being fans of multiple genres of content, right? I mean, everybody on this phone is clearly, a fan of superheroes and comic books, but then we got, video games and then other just strictly sci-fi things that we like. And then there's the Disney cartoon stuff, right? I have an 8-year-old son, so, some of that stuff that'll come out, I'll sit down and watch with him, and I enjoy a lot of that stuff as well. So I think the pro to it is, right now, if you look at a family of 4 going to the movies and trying to keep up with as many movies that come out every year, it's quite expensive, especially if you have a family that's, going to get popcorn and drinks and everything. It can be quite expensive. But now you're giving parents an opportunity to get this service. It's not that much money as compared to a movie ticket, right? it's not that much money, and they got this quality content. They can sit their kids in front of the TV and kind of trust kind of what's going on. The con to it is that with Disney owning as much as they own now, people are afraid that you're not going to get, it's going to be homogenous, right? And it's going to be Disney controlling everything and this and that. I understand that fear. I really do. But I also understand that there are, properties out there, and I'll use The Boys as an example. If you read anything about Garlington that wasn't, Marvel or DC or whatnot, Disney's not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I think so I think, it is a con that maybe they get all the Marvel characters or whatever. In some people's eyes, I don't consider it a con. I'm just putting out the general argument that I've heard, right? That they get these things and it's going to be homogenous and we got to do this and they're going to squeeze out the little guy, this or that. Well, I'll say this. For the last 20 years, look at our X-Men property. You know what I mean? For the last 20 years, look at the Fantastic Four. People had a chance, right? And I'll use Disney on the superhero side of things, right? Had Fox been able to do what we all wanted them to do, this Disney Plus thing wouldn't be such a big deal on the superhero side of things, right? Because you would still have another company out here cranking out this whole universe that we would be enthralled in right now. And even though I know a lot of the stuff that's going to be on Disney Plus so far isn't necessarily properties that are X-Men or whatever, I get that point. I'm just saying that everybody's worried about the competition piece, and it's like, well, wait a minute. We had 20 plus years of competition and nothing that's super noteworthy really, really happened. So it's time to try something else. So that's kind of my pros and cons with it. Hopefully somebody else got something better.
My man Jeremy, I'm gonna throw that same question over to you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was just now thinking in terms of competition. This is either going to make those people back down in terms of how they approach comic book movies, or it's going to make someone, and pardon my French, grab their balls and take a chance. So I'm always looking for that next property to take a shot in the dark and try something new. And hopefully, I think all competition is great for each other. So hopefully, perhaps maybe this we'll see better attempts, as you were saying, in terms of like X-Men, or even if we're going to look across the street at DC, maybe, they'll be more entitled to put more emphasis on like the Watchmen show, which is coming out on HBO. Maybe we'll get a little bit more there. Maybe we'll get more chances like maybe, I don't know, like an actual Suicide Squad show, since we can't seem to get the movie right, So I'm looking across the board what this means for comics. And since you mentioned The Boys, I think of obscure characters. One movie I would love to see, and this has nothing to do with Marvel or DC, I was a big fan of the video game Turok, the dinosaur hunter. And I've always felt like with the success of like Jurassic Park and, all of these different minorities of characters portraying comic book characters, I'm excited to, maybe see like Dark Horse or Variant Comics take their own shot. So I think this power move by Disney will actually inspire, other companies to take a shot where they now will have a lane because they see there's an audience for it.
And for me, I'm a person who, I come from the 90s where I had all those thick plastic hard case VHS tapes, and to know that this Disney Plus is going to come out and I'm going to be able to relive all of those, that's going to be something awesome. So again, with anything and everything, there's always going to be pros and cons, and that leads us into talking about what type of content that we're going to see on Disney Plus. Man, there's an unsurmountable amount of stuff coming out. I know one thing that my boy Kevin is happy about. The Star Wars movies are coming to Disney Plus, and I'm gonna be able to watch the old school movies, Kevin. I'm gonna be able to watch 4, 5, and 6. I know you've been trying to get me to watch about 4 or 5 years now. But they all gonna come to one place and be in one spot. The content that is coming to this is just it's unthinkable to know or to see that we would get this type of content. I mean, it's only word for it. It's content. Looking at the Pixar, the Star Wars, the original shows, the movies, the reboots, the connections, the stuff that they got from Fox, that stuff coming over to Disney Plus. New original stuff. Now, one thing that I saw, they said that they were doing a spinoff of Monsters Inc. called Monsters at Work that was supposed to be after the events of the Monsters Inc. movie. I'm still not happy about the fact that why they just want to do a sequel to Monsters Inc. I'm just going to go ahead and get this out the way and get on my soapbox. Just do a sequel to Monsters Inc. We want to know what happened to Boo, what she been doing. Okay, I got that out the way. But there is so much stuff coming to this. And I want to give all of you guys, we've all had a list of all of the stuff that's coming to Disney Plus. I want to give each one of you your opportunity to express what you're excited for, what you're not excited for, what you're intrigued by. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Jeremy. Go ahead, man.
Brother, I've been watching the intros and the secret reveals of everything. The main things, and I'll pick a few. I'm not, because I'll be here all day picking stuff, y'all. First thing first, shows The Mandalorian all day long. I've been a huge mark for Boba Fett and Jango Fett for all my life. I've always wanted them to have their own, origin / tale, that just focused on them, because I always thought he was badass, and he has the best helmet ever. I don't care what anybody says. He does. I'm also excited about the fact that, like we mentioned earlier, Marvel is recouping all of their content from like Netflix and Hulu, and they're bringing them, to one platform. So being able to, I guess this goes for my girl. She's come late into the game, so she found out about the MCU with Black Panther. So now I don't have to go and buy Blu-rays and take her from the start of everything and then bring up. We have like a one-stop shop. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, because I think a lot of comic book nerds now can now go back 10 years and get that same rush that we felt going into Endgame, those same emotions. And I think the sleeper hit on this list, and I know y'all are going to probably disagree with me, I think Hawkeye is going to be probably the best show on here. That's just me.
All right, well, now I'm going to pass it over to my man, Clay. Clay, let me know what you got.
I'm going to take a moment to kind of touch up on what Jeremy just said with Hawkeye. Definitely going to be an interesting show. Big fan of Jeremy Renner in general. He's done a really good job with the character, and especially with Endgame, showing the emotion that he went through and transitioned from one setting to another. I thought that was really clever and really well done on his part. He's definitely a great actor. So that was that's going to be really, really cool. Honestly, I'm a little bit more excited for Winter Soldier and Falcon. I gotta say, and that's because I'm also a really big Sebastian Stan fan, and of course, I love the Winter Soldier all through his iterations, not only in the comics, but of course, the appearances he made in the Captain America series. I thought was really good. In terms of content, I want to see. I am an old school Star Wars fan. I've seen the original 4 or the original 3 movies before Lucas came back and retouched them up with all these other different things that happened. So I go back that far. But before I was even watching a lot of all that, or I was watching even a lot of the old Disney movies, because my parents just didn't get a hold of them. I was going to garage sales, and I was going to like storage facilities that were selling comic books, and I was reading really old, obscure characters in comic books. So I thought that was really, really cool to see some of the other things that they're coming out with. They announced Moon Knight. Moon Knight is just one of those characters that people are just kind of like, they don't really know a lot about. They don't really see him much in comics. You might see him in some crossovers, but more of a background character. He really wasn't touched up upon in terms of mainstream Marvel heroes. So I'm very excited to see that. There were a couple of Disney movies I didn't see on the list. Like, I didn't see Treasure Planet. Kind of sad about that. But I won't lose any sleep over it for a little while at least. It was interesting to see that they are working on a live-action variation of that, though. But, yeah, that's mostly it. I just want to see... I'm glad Marvel, Disney Marvel, that is getting a hold of a lot of these properties, because, you can say what you want about, the fear of them controlling it, or Disney controlling everything. I think that's a little silly, honestly, because they have how much they currently control. They have done a great job with Marvel in general. And I think that continuing to push that along has really made them very successful and has given something that we cherish as kids a much grander presentation to the audiences today and even to us. So that's my 2 cents.
And when you take a look at the listing that they put out, of course, we've talked about all the Marvel shows, the Marvel movies. They're even putting out some of the Marvel cartoon series, like the Guardians of the Galaxy cartoon series, the Ultimate Spider-Man series, which I think is one of the best Spider-Man series I have ever watched. It's up there on that pantheon with me, with the original Spider-Man back in the 90s. We talked about Star Wars. When it comes to Pixar, all of the Pixar movies, except for Toy Story 4, are coming to Disney Plus at launch. You think about the stuff that you're getting at launch. They're also doing new Pixar shows like Forky Asks a Question, for those of you who've seen Toy Story 4. They're even doing a show called Marvel's Hero Project. And basically that show I read up on that show is going to be about kids in their area and their community who are making a difference by doing things like giving back. So stuff like that is just awesome. They even got more original shows like The Lady and the Tramp, and I'm going to get to that in a second, man. That's a whole nother thing. They're bringing back High School Musical. The World According to Jeff Goldblum. That is going to be some of the most untapped, great entertainment that we've seen in a long time. It just really is. They're also doing more original shows like Diary of a Female President, Be Our Chef, Magic of Animal Kingdom. They even got a Christmas movie coming out called Noel with Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader. They also have some type of Stargirl, and I'm not sure what that's about because we know there's a character called Stargirl over there at DC, but we'll find out more about that later. They're doing Phineas and Ferb. They're doing a movie like that. And of course, all of the old school Disney movies are coming. It's like the vault. Yeah, and for years they talk about the vault is open. You better get these movies while you can, and then they close the vault again. It's like now the vault is open, and they're even going back and doing stuff like Boy Meets World, DuckTales from the '80s. DuckTales from the '80s, they're bringing that back. Goof Troop, Malcolm in the Middle, and all of this is possible because of their acquisition of Fox. The Simpsons are going to be on there. All types of stuff that you can think of is coming to this service. Now, Kevin, same question I pitched to them about what that they're excited for. I want to know what you're excited for about coming to Disney Plus.
I've looked at everything on the list, and I think there's going to be some surprises for me. Obviously, just like you guys, I'm a huge comic book fan, and I'm looking forward to kind of the same show they talked about. The Mandalorian is the one that has me the most intrigued, though, out of everything that they talked about. There's going to be a lot of shows in there that are going to be surprises. I know that. And Clay mentioned Moon Knight, which I am not a fan of Moon Knight at all in the comic books or whatever. Right? He's just not my jam. However,
wait, Kev, I want to know why, because you said that real strong. You said I am not a fan of Moon Knight at all.
I've just let me back up here. So the stories I've read that were involving Moon Knight, to me, were just not that interesting. And I think a lot of times what you have to understand is when you catch a comic book character, you may not like the particular run that this writer is doing, right? But then the next writer could pick that comic book character up and you may be in love with it. So, what I want to say, what I always say about these characters is somebody's run may be terrible for you, but the next run could have been the greatest thing you ever read if you could get to the next run. So my point I was going to make was Mark Spector in the comic books or whatever, Mark has a lot of psychological issues. And at the time when I was reading comics, at the time when I picked that up, I just wasn't trying to go through all that. I was a younger man then, and I'm like, look, Mark, all that's cool what you got going on in your head, but I need something a little bit different. And I'm going to tell you why. For me at that particular time, I was reading a lot of Batman, right? And yeah, you know where I'm going. You hear it. You know where I'm going. So what happens is the comparison that gets made a lot of times is that Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman, right? I'm not saying that myself. I'm saying that comparison is out there that gets made a lot. And at the time, I think I was kind of drinking that Kool-Aid a little bit. So I was kind of the mindset of this isn't as good as Batman, so why am I reading? You know what I mean? So There was a particular conversation he was having with Frenchie in one of those books, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done. This is it. I'm done. It's the same reason why I would not read Bill St. Cavish's run on Legion. I'm just like, this ain't for me. But when I say that, I'm talking about an earlier me. As an adult man, I probably would go back to it and feel different about it. But that was the time, so that's just, it was what it was. However, I was gonna say, with Marvel and Disney putting as much, oomph behind these shows, and as much care and protection, I would absolutely sit down and watch that show. You know what I mean? Because you just, you have to give it a shot, and you may show up, and I may come back to you guys later on this year and say, hey, I love that show. But just initially, what has me excited up front is The Mandalorian and somebody taking Star Wars and going in a direction that we haven't really seen outside of the Clone Wars cartoon and some of those stuff that they've done. And I know some of that Mandalorian stuff in the Clone Wars cartoon was some of the best stuff that they did. So I'm excited to kind of see those guys kind of take that and run with it. But there's just so much to talk about up here. But for me, I'll tell you what I'm really excited about. The fact that we're going to be able to continue the MCU at home, right? Because this is the first time, right? So this is the first time they went to Comic-Con, right? They put the slate up there for this particular phase, and the timeline is different from movie to TV show to movie to TV show, right? So I watched the Netflix Marvel shows up to a certain point, so I just couldn't take it no more. And my whole thing with them was, and it's been the same way with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably the best thing that they had going as far as having your own storyline and just taking it and run with it, right? From the standpoint of, they would take the Marvel shows and they would kind of react to what just happened in the movies. And we know why. It's not their fault. It's a division of kind of the way the work is divided up, and this division doesn't talk to this division, they can't do this and that. So I get all that, right? But the Marvel Netflix shows just left something to be desired for me. There are certain seasons of those shows that I think are great, though, right? But as a total body of work, I can't stand behind Luke Cage like I want to. I definitely can't stand behind Iron Fist. You know what I mean? So now we have these shows, and guess what? Because they put them on this slate, because they are connected to the MCU in such a manner that the other shows haven't, they have to put the money and the care and attention behind it, which means it's gonna be better than what we've seen. And I'm not sitting here saying we're gonna love these shows, right? Because Clay, you may watch something and say, "Hey, this isn't my jam," And Jeremy, you might come up and say, "Man, you know what? They didn't get this particular thing right for me. I didn't like this." But I think we'll all agree that probably when you watch Winter Soldier and Falcon, the hand-to-hand combat is gonna be 10 times better than what you saw on Iron Fist, right?
Very likely. Yeah, very likely.
Very likely, right? So
yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. So I think that has me excited, just the connection piece, and just I know that they're going to come with it,
Now, Kevin, since you mentioned Clone Wars, what do you think about them bringing Clone Wars back?
I almost kind of want them just to leave it alone.
That's the time I heard that.
Yeah, and guys, jump in here. Let's have a conversation about it. I'm of the mindset of so for I don't know if anybody on the phone watched the Clone Wars cartoon all the way through. I did. Right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm in the company here that knows what we're talking about. So we had some episodes on Netflix that we didn't get released, like if you were watching it from week to week, right? And we end with Yoda. I think the last 2 episodes of Yoda and kind of going on or whatever. I am so tired of the Clone Wars though. Like, look, it's over. They dead. Let's just let it stay where it is. Now I will say this: that Clone Wars cartoon is the best thing Star Wars I have ever seen. From beginning to end, that is the best thing I think they've ever done. And I think that it's time to go ahead and springboard off that and move forward. And Star Wars now, to me, has a track record on lingering on stuff just a little bit too long, especially the Clone Wars. That's the second Clone Wars thing we've got. We've got the Clone Wars movie, okay, the live action movie, right? Then you had the Cartoon Network show. That was the little shorts that they strung together. They did 2 seasons of that. I don't know if you guys saw that. Back in like 04, 03, 04, whatever, right? Okay, so you had that. Then there was the Clone Wars animated movie, because the first, I think, 3 episodes of the Clone Wars cartoon, they released as a movie in theaters. I went to go see it. Then you had 5 seasons of the show. like, hey guys, I love it. It was great. Can we just let the Clone Wars die though? I'm good. So that's my take on it. But if it's gonna be good and they're gonna put some more lightsaber battles in there, I'm gonna watch it. But that's just me. What you guys think?
I mean, Clone Wars is something I haven't delved into. It's something that I've watched a few episodes here and there, and I've listened to a lot of you all talk about Clone Wars. So it's something that I think I'm going to go back to Netflix and check it out before they snatch it off, before it's gone, and then see what they're going to do. But I was listening to a few people today talk on YouTube, and they were saying like, what are they going to do? Like, everything is over. I thought it was over. What else can you do? And I think that goes with what Kevin said, like lingering on a franchise just because it was successful and trying to bring something out of it. Now, there probably is a market out there of people who want to see more Clone Wars. I mean, point blank, there are some people out there that are like, it shouldn't have been that I want to see more. And speaking of more, there's an Obi-Wan show coming. What else can you do with Obi-Wan? Clay, I want to, I know you're a Star Wars fan too. What else can be done with Obi-Wan?
I mean, if you really want to get into that, I could be here for a minute, but so let me try to keep it as short as I can. Let's see here. Well, the problem with it on the core of things, and this is where I have to preface this entire thing that I'm about to say, is all of the old stories that were published in books that were taken before Disney got a hold of Star Wars, all that stuff that was canon to the series, there was a lot of stuff that included Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan has so many stories. It's actually kind of ridiculous. They don't tell you about him in the movies because they don't really want to go into all that, but his stories are crazy. So are Qui-Gon's. I want to touch up on the Clone Wars thing before I continue on much further. The reason why they really try to focus on that is because of how inclusive that is to the majority of the characters that you see across the series. If they go any further, you got Order 66, and you got the End of the Jedi, and then you've got the little short stories in between for different singular characters, and then beyond that, you get stories like Kanan, which they already have a series of. You get some other stories like how Obi-Wan went from where he was to where he ended up at the beginning of Episode 4. So there's a lot of different things that become more centralized on certain characters more so than covering the entirety of the Star Wars universe, which is what Clone Wars does. And that's why I think they really want to play that, and why a lot of people might want to see more of that. But I completely agree, it needs to stop. It's just too much, it's too long, it's madness. Going back to Obi-Wan, I'm actually really glad that they're going to be doing a series on Obi-Wan himself, because, like I said, he has so many stories that have before him that show a grander depth of his character. You look at Obi-Wan a lot of times and you're like, well, this is the guy, this is the paragon of the light side of the Force. And then you read the stories and you're like, whoa, what am I reading? What are you talking about? He's actually leaning a little bit more towards the dark side in a few of these areas? Yeah. Obi-Wan had a really shady, really jaded past. And even training Anakin, he wasn't like the wonderful Jedi Knight that everybody knows him to be. No, this guy was messed up. And this guy was pretty hardcore. So the fact that they're focusing so much on his story is actually pretty exciting. But like we said a moment ago with Clone Wars, that they're going to be focusing on a centralized character. I think that's actually a really cool thing. But I can see where it might not be received as well by some fans who want to see more Clone Wars type deal with more characters. But I mean, let's face it, they're all dead. Oh, that's all right. Is it that way?
Oh. I want to throw that over to my man Jeremy. You're a big Star Wars fan as well. What about Clone Wars and Obi-Wan for you?
Obi-Wan is always a plus. Any day of the week. I agree with Clay. I read the comics a lot. I read Marvel had a great run with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader that I was reading that I came across a couple years back. As far as the Clone Wars, though, man, like, you can't beat that dead horse anymore, bro. That's the fortunate ability about Star Wars. There's so many eras, I would like to say, that do seem like they're in such a small time of about 100 years, but there's so many gaps that you could fill, from a perspective of someone else that can still interact with all of these characters. Like, I would love, this is just me, and I don't mean this literally, but I would love to see how Palpatine kind of pulled the strings more behind the scenes. That's just me. I love that kind of behind the scenes espionage type shows. So like Game of Thrones and things like that. I hate to give that example because of the way it died, but I would like to see more of that. I want to see. I want to see the cunning, the espionage. Like I said, the lies, the deceit. I want to see someone actually explain how Order 66 got implemented before it was implemented. Like, who came up with the idea? Who thought of this fail-safe and implanted it there? Like, I want to see that on Disney Plus. And you have the space. I mean, and let's be honest, as much as people don't like to admit it, listen, Star Wars will have to go beyond this period. As much as people are afraid of it, new content has to be created for this timeline. I love Luke. I love everyone. I love Chewbacca. I love The Mandalorian. But skip me up a few years. Take me 100 years in the future. What's happening now? Like take a chance. Like you got all this potential. For lack of a better term, a long time ago in the galaxy so far, far away, but we're still talking about the same thing. So let's take a chance, man. Let's do something new. That's just me.
No, I mean, I want to cut in real fast on that particular point. Definitely would say that would be really cool because they did have a series that came out before everything went, non-canon with the current storyline, and that was called the Jedi Outcast. I don't know if you ever played that series of games or read that series of stories with Kyle Katarn. That really was a cool time period that happened after the events of the original trilogy and then sometime after what we're dealing with now. When actually it probably would have fell before Episode 7 when Luke Skywalker went on to revitalize the Jedi Temple. But it took a different route from what we see in Episode 7. So if you want to go even further beyond that and try something a little bit different with that same idea in mind, I think that would be really, really cool. And I'm done.
And that brings us to our next thing, continuing to do more and more different things. The original movies. Now, a lot of people have had complaints about the fact that Disney's not doing anything original. All they're doing is just making live-action versions of the older movies. And then we got Lady and the Tramp that's coming to Disney Plus. I gotta say, y'all, when I first saw this trailer, I said, "Oh, this is beautiful." It hit me more than Lion King hit me, and that's something I still haven't gone to see yet. Because the hype, once I heard from people who I know watch movies, said, you know what, it really wasn't all that. I was like, I'm not gonna go spend 2 hours in the movie theater to go watch this. I'm just not. So looking at Lady and the Tramp, that don't sound right, Lady of the Tramp. Looking at Lady and the Tramp, just the cinematography of it, the dogs that they're using, the fact that they're using rescue dogs, you know what I'm saying? It hits home with a lot of people. It looks amazing, but I have to be honest. This is not a movie that if it came out in theaters was going to make gangbusters and people were going to bust the door down and go see it. So they knew this is where it had to go. I want to know what you think about Lady and the Tramp, Kevin, and the fact that people are always complaining about how Disney is not making anything new.
Well, I think you have to go back and look at kids these days. So since I have a kid, I don't know if anybody else on the phone has children, but I look at some of this thing through the lens of my son and kind of what he responds to and what he doesn't respond to. If you look at like the programming for the Disney Channel, so they have Disney XD, which is the older kids, the regular Disney Channel, I think it's Disney something else, right? They don't even show their old cartoons. You know why? Because kids don't want to see them. And I'll tell you why they don't want to see them, because everything is CGI generated now, right? So when you look at you got the Pixar effect, right? Which is, everything that whole Pixar from Toy Story 1 and Luxo Jr. and all that. When you go past that and you look at the movies that really hit now, it doesn't have to be from Disney to make $1 billion. Look at the Secret Life of Pets and Despicable Me, right? But stuff has to have 3D and it has to have texture. for a lot of it. Now, I will say Frozen is actually one of those things that kind of went, not Frozen, but what is it, the Princess and the Frog? That was one of those that kind of hit home, and they did the 2D animation, right? So anyway, but going back to it, but let's talk about that. So with the kids, they have to do something different, and I think when you look at it, they've done a lot of, Disney has been a part of a lot of original stuff, but they are going back and they're knocking the dust off some of their movies. Number one, they had a misstep this year, and I'll say a misstep with like Dumbo, right? Dumbo is such an old concept and came out so long ago. Nobody cared, right? Nobody cared about Dumbo this year, right? But when you go look at Aladdin, which is the one that everybody's saying is their best thing they've done this year, people were lukewarm with The Lion King, but I will tell you the problem with The Lion King is that we're all so young right now that it's hard for them to top that. When you have a movie that good and that hits that home back in 1994 when it came out, I don't know if you're going to be able to make everybody happy, right? Right. So that's just the way it is. But where we're sitting at now with the animation and the way everything is kind of coming together, I don't blame them from going back and rehashing some of those stories and kind of telling them again, because they do have some original stuff that's been coming out and stuff that's coming. You look at Toy Story 4. And I know that's a sequel, but I'm just saying that whole concept is not a classic Disney concept, right? So, yes, I do think they need to create some more stuff on their original front, but a lot of these folks that complain about this stuff, they have to realize one important fact. They're not making it for you. So everybody that was complaining about The Lion King now or whatever, that movie wasn't for them. It was for my son. We already had ours, right? And I know as a parent, I have to go sit in this movie theater or whatever. I got to take my kid in there and he's going to watch it or whatever. But realize that I'm only there because he needs adult supervision to go to the movies. They didn't make this for me. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times or whatever, man, people get all up in arms and get all upset about something. It's like, well, this wasn't even aimed at you. It wasn't for you. So I think that's what we have to think about a lot of times with the Disney stuff. People do a lot of complaining, but it's really not for you. So that's my 2 cents. And I know parents have to go see this stuff and all of that, but I just think that, sometimes we miss the mark. If you have a valid complaint about a film or valid criticism, I'm with you all day long. But just to say that it's not my Lion King, it's not like the one that came out in 94. Well, it shouldn't be, because if they repackaged that exact same movie and gave that exact same thing to you, I think I would be more upset about that.
But I think that's the thing. When people say that's not my Lion King, what you just said is what they wanted to be. When you really look at it, the fact that people say it's not my Lion King, what they wanted was an exact cut for cut for cut for cut of the original Lion King. And when they didn't get that, when they went to theater, that threw them off. That then kind of course, Lion King still made his money. Of course, it was going to. But that's legitimately what the people wanted. They wanted it to be just like 1994.
You're right, and I'm not disagreeing with you 100%. But what I am going to say is the thousands, the millions of voiceless people that went to see these movies, to see that movie as the kids, right?
True.
The kids are the ones that don't have a voice, that aren't on Rotten Tomatoes vote and everything. So the critics have it at 53%, but it actually has an 88 on the audience score. So again, bad news kind of travels fast, but I kind of feel like the people that really matter, they're not on the internet talking about it. They on the playground crashing trucks in the sand dunes.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
That sounds kind of fun right now, though. But anyway.
It actually does.
But and to piggyback on what you said, the voiceless. I can't tell you how many Lion King shirts I have seen since they started putting those shirts on Walmart and Hot Topic and Kohl's and these other stores. I am seeing it's like that joke. What year is it? I'm seeing children walking with their parents. I saw a kid, probably it was a boy, maybe between 8 and 10, had on a Scar shirt. And it's like, what year is it? So they're out there. They're out there walking around, but they don't have internet access to what they do. But to get on these type of sites and say, hey, I love the Lion King. Just imagine if a movie theater or a TV show company did something where they connected with parents and they said, hey, we want to know what your kids thought about this movie. just imagine what other stuff could be made or what other stuff could come about, because you're getting that type of feedback from that age demographic. Because whenever you go to do a survey, what's the first age bracket that you see? It starts at 18. It starts at 18, 25, and 25 going up, and then going up. But what if there was something that could be done where kids could be reached out to and said, "Hey, I don't know what you thought about this movie," especially a children's movie, and we would probably get a whole different, more perspective than just the ones of new Master 69. I watched such and such and I hated it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're 35 years old eating corn chips. Now, come on, it's not for you anymore. It's not for you anymore. Now, I want to go ahead and throw it to Jeremy, and we're going to get ready to wrap it up. Jeremy, what, out of everything that we've talked about today with Disney Plus, where does it rest with you at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, Disney is about to make more money than people realize. And they're doing it the smart way. Like you said, they sat back, they watched everyone else fail at their, business model. And they said, you know what, we're going to take everything we own and put it here for a price cheaper than everyone else's, and we're going to get them by their pocket by appealing to their kids. If you want your kids to be quiet about watching The Lion King, guess what you got to buy? Disney Plus. So I think that's brilliant. They're about to win in so many avenues because they're going to get the parents, they're going to get the nerds, and they're going to get the casuals. When you have all of the markets in one place, you won. That's monopoly. You got it. That is it. I don't even want to go around and pass go anymore. You got it.
Really, that's it. I want to let everybody have the same opportunity. Clay, I want you to give your last thoughts of Disney Plus and everything that you think about it as well. And then after Clay or Kevin, I want you to go ahead too.
Like he said, it definitely will hit home for a lot of people. The cool thing about it is how many different companies are associated with it. The fact that Disney not only having a majority of the stuff, of the services and the titles that are coming out for its service, but the fact that they're also working alongside with Hulu as well, and that particular service probably will be bundled in some way, shape, or form to a subscription to Disney Plus, which would be really cool. So the fact that they're moving in with that as well, that really kind of bridges the gap, not only for having their own service, for working with others as well, so not everybody is going to be cut out. So they're making that's a really smart move, just across the board. And I mean, to have all these different franchises, all these different IPs coming into one roof and having such a great team behind it, I really think is not only smart financially speaking, but to a consumer basis, it's really great to see that kind of quality coming with it. So I'm all for it. I'm aboard. I'm ready to see what they're going to bring in the next few years. So go Disney.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I think both you guys made some excellent points today on the phone, and I think we kind of all the same mindset of, wanting to consume this content, wanting things to be good, not hanging on a negative. Like I said, maybe I went a little negative on Moon Knight, but I think that at the end of the day, my thing is I'll give it a shot, right? And I think that's the main thing that we have here is some of these things that we are going to watch. I'm going to go on a limb here and call a couple of them out. Moon Knight, She-Hulk. We didn't even talk about Miss Marvel, which is that they're going with the Kamala Khan run, which I think is smart, right? Some of these things people have to realize is that if we didn't have this service and this technology hadn't advanced to the point to where it is, we would never see these people in this type of show. Do you think Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist would have got, multiple seasons of a TV show if we didn't have this whole new way to consume content would come out? No, because nobody is trying to make movies with characters like that. Even though we love those characters, we know they carry a lot of weight in the Marvel Universe, and we know their stories. Hollywood executives don't, and they don't care. What they want to know is, how can I get a kid to tell his parents he wants to see that movie, go to that movie, buy a T-shirt and a toy, right? And it's like, well, no, you have this whole thing you have to fill up here. And I think that's kind of what's going on with Disney here. When they bought Marvel, their big thing was, we don't have any properties for little boys. and they wanted to come over and get Marvel and go and do that, and they've done that in spades, and it's proven to be, you know, one of the best things they could have ever done. You guys know the stories. There's so many countless stories about Hollywood executives, you know, people like Kevin Smith and other folks who have tried to tell people the whole time, you should be telling these stories. You should be telling these stories. Because when it boils down to it, there's no difference between the X-Men and the General Hospital other than superpowers. No difference, right? We all love drama and slice of life TV and slice of life stories. You know what I mean? If you really sit back and think about it, think about these comic books and kind of what we are all reading soap operas, right? We all are. Whether you want to describe it as a soap opera, a graphic novel, or whatever, we like those stories, whether they're with aliens or humans or whatever, right? You can throw any sci-fi twist in there you want. So I think when you look at Disney Plus and kind of what they're doing, people are scared, and I understand where they're coming from. I don't think we have any reason to be scared. You know what I think our biggest decision is going to be? I think when you have your household budget and you say, I have X amount of dollars for content, right? The biggest decision right now is, if you can't afford it all, what are you going to cut when Disney Plus comes out? Because you know what I mean? What are you going to cut? That's the biggest thing. And I know, and Clay mentioned it a few minutes ago with Hulu being a part of that whole acquisition or whatever. If I'm not mistaken, they have a price point now. What is it going to be, $12.99, and you can do Hulu too? With the commercials or something like that?
Hulu.
Yeah.
Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN. I think one more thing.
Okay. Right. So you look at that. So you covered Dad in the house, right? Dad's a sports fan. You just covered him. So he's all for it, right? Mom, if she likes certain TV shows and she can't watch them during the week, Hulu does a really good job of getting you in to watch your shows, right? Now the kids are covered with Disney. You did all that for the price of an adult movie ticket on a Friday night? Oh, man. They in trouble. That's what Jeremy was talking about earlier, too. You know, they're in trouble out here. So that's my biggest thing. And earlier, I think Jeremy made a good point about the competition piece. We've already seen it. So right now, every major streaming service has Marvel, or I'm not going to say Marvel, excuse me, they have superhero properties, right? Amazon had The Tick. Even though that's been canceled, they did 2 seasons of it, though, right? They did The Tick, and they went on and they did The Boys. If you go over to Netflix, of course, they had the Marvel shows that are gone, but they just did the Umbrella Academy, right? I'm just going to use the Umbrella Academy about one mention for them. You go over to Hulu, you got The Runaways, and you got Cloak and Dagger. Now, the dark horse that we haven't talked about on this thing, and I don't want to draw this out any longer than it has to be, I'm already long-winded, is Apple TV or Apple streaming service that's coming. That's going to be another outlet. They have put out multiple emails for people that are writing scripts and stuff to say, hey, submit your scripts. We're trying to get stuff made. Netflix bought up Mark Millar's back catalog. So you got a lot of stuff that's going to come. So like Jeremy was saying earlier about the competition piece, what's going to happen is Marvel over at Disney Plus has this thing, and they're going to probably do a lot of PG-13 content. You know what I mean? And they're going to push the envelope in certain places. But there's a whole rated R side of graphic novels and comics that hasn't been covered. And that's where the other streaming services are going to be worth their weight in gold. For those of us that want to go out there and we want to see The Boys, or you want to go watch Titans on the DC network, which I thought was great for what it was, you know? So that's another network, DC, right? So we got to figure that out. So I'm going to jump off my soapbox. I'm sorry, I got excited. But I just want to say that I'm with you guys. I agree with you guys wholeheartedly about what's coming and how it's going to be. And I'm not scared that Disney's got a big stake in it at all.
Most definitely, man. Well, I appreciate everybody on this chat tonight talking about Disney Plus, and we hope you guys out there who are listening enjoyed it as well. I'm going to pass it around the room again. Kevin, let everybody know where they can find you at.
Hey, man, I am at Hubster Pics on Instagram and Kevin Garlington on Facebook.
My man, Clay.
Hey guys, you know who I am, or at least you should if you're watching Phantoms Anonymous, checking out Gaming Nation. You can also find us, of course, over on Tales of the Blade, youtube.com/Tales of the Blade, Facebook, Instagram. We're now on Twitch, streaming live at least a few days in the month. So don't miss out on that. Come check us out, and of course, stay tuned right here to Phantoms Anonymous.
And I just looked at Clay's Funko Pop that I have not sent off in the mail yet. I'm going to do that this week. All right.
It's all right, brother.
Get that man his pop, man. Don't hold his pop like that. Get him his pop. Right.
I'm going to throw it over from the last line of these, my man Jeremy. What's going on, man? Where can I find you at?
Hey, man, 2020 Podcast, you already know what's up. Can holler at me on Facebook. Or if you want to see a YouTube channel, check out some of the interviews we do. Go to youtube.com/2020podcast. And if you just want to message me directly, holler at me on my page, sir, on Facebook, and I'll be glad to get up with you. We'll connect.
Hey, my name is Malcolm, and I'm waiting on Target to release the 10-inch Kool-Aid Man pop. But for real, though, guys, you know who we are. We're at Fandoms Anonymous. That's FANDOMSANONYMOUS. We're all over social media. Right here where you watch us on YouTube. Right here where you watch us on Facebook. And anywhere you can get your podcast. We appreciate you all for checking us out. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, too. We're trying to beef that up. And we'll see you guys soon at a lot of different conventions. We're going to be at Fanaticon in Dothan, Alabama in October. And also, we're going to Big Easy Con in November as well. And as we always say, we'll see you guys in another video.